Now that we can add new tasks, let's also make it where we can delete existing tasks. Now, we could create little X triggers, little X buttons on all of the different cards in order to delete the task, but I want to go a little different direction. Instead, I want a task to be focusable, and then by pressing the delete key, you can remove the focus task. So, how do we go about that? Well, the first thing I'm going to do in my Trello board task.view component is I want to define a reactive ref called focused, just like we had in the new task component. Then, just like in the new task component, I'll listen for a particular element to be focused, in this case, the wrapper div for the entire task. And on focus, we'll set focused to true. Then on blur, we'll set focused to false. Now, there's one more step in this case to make our focused data work. That is, we need to add tab index 0 to our div. This is necessary since a div isn't normally a focusable element. Text areas and inputs and selects and form elements such as those are focusable out of the box, but divs are not. So adding tab index 0 will let the browser know that we should be able to focus this div. Excellent. So now we have a way inside of script setup to know when this particular task or this particular instance of the Trello board task component is focused. So the next step is to listen for the press of the backspace button. I'll use yet another composable from View Use called onKeystroke. OnKeystroke takes the key that you want to listen to as the first argument. Then the second argument is a callback function to run whenever the key is pressed. Inside here, we can check to see if focused is true. And if it is, let's emit an event called delete. And then for the payload of that event, let's just give the ID of this current task. Now, there's a couple of different things going wrong here. I've got two red squiggly lines. This one is because props is not defined. It says cannot find name props. Okay, that's because I'm used to go ahead and defining props when I create a component, but I forgot to do that in this case. So I'll copy props here and then set the result of the define props function to a variable called props. Great. That takes care of that red squiggly line. Now we have a red squiggly line here. That's because VS Code thought I was talking about the emit function defined on process, which no, I was not. Instead, I was talking about the emit function that is returned from define emits. So define emits is that macro where we register all the events that our component will emit. And its return is the emit function. Now, I still have the red squiggly line here, but that's because we haven't defined or registered the delete event inside of define emits. So I'll change this to delete. And then the payload for our event will be a string. That is the ID of the new task. Now, I could be a little more precise here. Remember, we have a ID type from types. Let's actually use that instead. Excellent. So now we know when the current task is focused, and whenever the backspace button is clicked, we can delete or emit rather a delete event from our component. The last thing to do is to listen for that event over in Trello board.view and remove the item from the array appropriately. So we'll say at delete, I want to set the value of this column's tasks to all the tasks except the one that was just deleted. Excellent. That should do the trick. So over in the browser, let me give the page a refresh. And now I'll click on one of the tasks to focus it. But I don't have a really good indication that it has focus because of my styles. Let me copy and paste just a couple quick styles in order to fix that. In Trello board task.view, in the style section, I'll paste these in. And here you can see we're just targeting the focus state and the focus visible state of the task and applying a gray outline. In the browser this time, you can see that we have the gray outline here because I already focused it a moment ago. I can click on the next one and it receives focus. And now for the moment of truth. I'll hit backspace. Sweet. The task disappears, and I can also tab through to the next task and hit delete one more time. And we're able to remove that one as well. Now, one little added benefit that I did not anticipate was that if I continue to hit tab, we can also tab through each of the different add a card triggers because they're nothing but text areas. And even though I didn't really expect this, this is a delightful little surprise. I think it's actually a pretty good user experience. With that, we're almost done with our Trello board. We're able to create new cards, we're able to move them around, we're able to reorder them, and we're able to delete them. In the next lesson, let's help our columns catch up with our tasks by allowing the user to add and remove them.